Welcome to the LGC Council of the Year webinar with Telford and Wrekin Council. I'm Sarah Calkin, editor of LGC, and I'm going to be chairing this afternoon's proceedings. Now, the LGC Awards is, of course, about celebrating all the great work that goes on in local government. But it's about more than that. It's also about sharing those good ideas and that best practice that we uncover through the awards process across the sector. And this webinar is part of that. I'd like to thank Zurich Municipal, the long-term sponsor of the Council of the Year category, for their support over the years and with this webinar. And when I say long-running sponsor, I really mean it. Next year, the awards will be in their 30th year, and Zurich has sponsored the Council of the Year award for every single year in that period. So demonstrating a real commitment to the sector. In a moment, I'm going to hand over to Alex Bedford from Zurich to tell us a little bit about why the judges thought Telford were such worthy winners. After that, we'll hear from Telford themselves about their achievements, including back-to-back outstanding Ofsted ratings and their approach to driving growth and prosperity. We'll then finish with a Q&A. Your speakers today will include David Sidway, Chief Executive, Executive Director of Children's Services, Joe Britton, Director of Prosperity and Investment, James Dunn, and Fliss Mercer, Executive Director of Adult Social Care, Housing and Customer Services. But first, let me hand over to Alex, who was one of the panel of judges who visited Telford as part of this three-stage judging process back in May this year. Alex.
Thank you, Sarah, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Alex Bedford. I am Head of Customer and Partnerships at Zurich Municipal. I haven't been here 30 years, but great to hear we have been in the sector, working with the sector for that long and slightly more, I think. So in terms of why we're involved, we are a partner providing risk management and insurance solutions to the local government sector and the wider UK public sector. And it is such a privilege to be involved in these awards as a judge and as an organisation. So much work goes into it, and you will see that, I'm sure, through this webinar. The visits that we get to do to the shortlisted councils just bring so much inspiration and knowledge that I can take back into my organisation. I know that everyone on the judging panel, so the chief execs from around the country and senior leaders, get so much out of it, looking at the very best that the sector is delivering. So Telford and Wrekin, why did they win? To paraphrase one of my fellow judges, it was the relentless delivery that we saw demonstrated in their entry. But for me, it was actually because that had people at the core of it. The amount of times that Telford will talk about their people, be that staff, residents, or even their own families, and how that is core to everything that they do. The brilliant basics we should hear about, really focused on what makes residents' lives better. The statistics are so impressive, you can't argue with them. Back-to-back Ofsted outstanding judgments, but also in the top 8, I think, for reducing potholes, which as an insurer we're very interested in. 92% of residents satisfied with recycling and waste. It was just as a list of this evidence of delivery. And then the commercial innovation that the council has shown, but in the context of that impact and benefits for residents rather than just the sort of commercial delivery for its own right. And then the final thing to mention, I think, that made this entry really stand out was how lived experience consultees were brought into the conversation, both in person at the visit and then shared anecdotes and evidence from what they were bringing into the council in terms of service design and delivery. So again, it was all down to people, really. So I think that's why they won, and I'm really looking forward to hearing the stories again from the council today, bringing all of that to life. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, Alex. Thank you for that. So without further ado, I will hand over to David. Just to say quickly, we will be doing a Q&A at the end, so I'd encourage you to pop your questions into the chat as we go through, and we'll get through as many of them as we can at the end. David.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Alex, as well, for your kind words, and good afternoon, colleagues. So I'll be sharing a few thoughts on the criteria we looked at before going forward for this amazing award of Council of the Year. I'll share a quick video with you as well to provide context around our place, so as to accelerate in understanding, I guess, in terms of in advance of hearing from colleagues. And I'll finally share a few examples in addition to what others will cover as well, in terms of why we think we were selected as Council of the Year. Also, as an aside, we can provide advice and thoughts about how to apply, how to pitch, and to give yourself the best chance if you're interested in making a pitch and an application for Council of the Year. But I don't want to use this webinar for that element and for that purpose, but we're more than happy to chat to anyone separately if that's of interest to you going forward. Okay, so I mentioned readiness and preparedness in terms of preparedness to apply. The question we pose to ourselves is, when will we know when we are ready to apply? This was like a self-imposed criteria for us within Telford and Wrekin to make sure that we thought we were ready to make that application. And as you'll all know, and you've heard from Sarah just a moment ago, the LGC Council of the Year Award recognises local government's excellence in delivering services and making a positive difference to its community, which you all do day in and day out. From our perspective, we were clear that we shouldn't apply until the key ingredients were in place, with the majority of those being covered by what we term as brilliant basics. And when the foundations are secured, it allows other great things to happen. Hopefully you'll pick up some of those today. But that can only happen when you truly know yourself and you're able to reflect what you describe in actions, and ultimately to make a difference to the lives of the people we serve. I've got a few examples really that we wanted to see in place before making the application for such a coveted award, and to have a strong track record across several critical areas. And they include, and I'll number them, but it's not really a priority order, but just give you a flavour of what we assessed. So outstanding service delivery, or what we refer to as brilliant basics. Achieve outstanding ratings from regulators like Ofsted, and as you know, and you've heard just a moment ago, we've secured back-to-back outstanding ratings from Ofsted. We feel that having a positive outcome from CQC and social care, and we've secured a good rating in that space. And we've also secured the highest rating around send services through Ofsted and CQC. The second area we looked at is around financial prudence and investment, and ensuring that innovation is driving growth through strategic investments, through our property portfolio and our wholly owned companies, in ultimately making the borough a commercial success. We've delivered well over a decade of unqualified accounts, and we have underspent in each and every year during that time period. We're one of only a handful of councils still offering free garden waste collections. We also offer free council car parking to support both our residents and our businesses, and we've capped local bus fares at £2. And the reason why I'm just referring to that, that's all in the context of us maintaining the lowest rate of council tax in the Midlands. The third element is around community focus. So we've got an exceptional culture within the organisation, and hopefully we'll hear more of that from Fliss a bit later, which we believe is the foundation of our success. We strive for an excellent customer experience, ensuring the council continues to protect, care and invest to create a better borough. And finally, around environmental leadership. We deliver exemplary work in this area. It's important to us. It's really important to us in terms of what it feels like for our residents, our friends and family, when they leave their front door of their home. Areas like environmental services, the quality of our roads and our green spaces, and we remain a borough named in the 20 greenest places to live in the UK and recognised as a tree city of the world. So they're just a few areas that we looked at in terms of criteria that we self-imposed before we thought we were ready to make an application, and hopefully that's helpful in terms of a bit of background as well. As I suggested earlier, we'll now run a video. It's based on a movie style approach, which is something similar to what we did when the judges made the visit to us over in Telford and Wrekin. We did also supply popcorn on the day as well. Unfortunately, we haven't got popcorn for you today, but let's have a look at the video and then I'll come back to you. Thank you.
Visit the borough that critics are calling outstanding. This year, get ready to see how one council is making a difference in the lives of its residents, working to ensure that every child, young person and adult lives well in their community, that everyone benefits from a thriving economy, that all neighbourhoods are a great place to live, and that our natural environment is protected. A place of contrast with the rural and historic sitting alongside modern housing and industrial estates. Telford was given Newtown status in the 1960s.
It is your city, but Telford has been planned and has progressed since it all began way back in 1963 to become the new city of the Midlands.
Telford has grown rapidly over the past 50 years around a number of existing borough towns. Our ambitious outlook is rooted in our history as the birthplace of the Industrial Revolution, with Telford and Wrekin playing home to the only UNESCO World Heritage Site in the West Midlands, the Ironbridge Gorge. Our borough is a place of socio-economic contrasts, with neighbourhoods amongst both the least deprived and the most deprived nationally, while our population is one of the fastest growing outside of the South East. Telford is a regional and national focal point for both housing and job growth, and has been ranked as one of the fastest growing areas in the Centre for Cities report for the past 3 years. We have a diverse manufacturing sector, a burgeoning tourism sector, and research and development facilities. 2014 saw the opening of Southwater, a £250 million town centre development that features a range of cultural, leisure, retail and event facilities. Telford and Wrekin is a great place to bring up a family, with an extensive range of leisure and cultural activities, plus a network of high-quality cycle paths connecting all communities with our award-winning parks and nature reserves. Our work is driven by our vision: protect, care and invest to create a better borough. What's at our heart? Nurturing brilliant staff to deliver on our vision for our residents, because we recognise that you can't achieve excellence without an outstanding, diverse, well-supported team. We believe that how we do things is just as important as what we do. Openness and honesty.
Telford are very open to embracing new ideas and new concepts.
Ownership.
Telford and Wrekin Council is progressive.
They give us the tools, the training and the knowledge so we can help others.
Fairness and respect.
In my role, fairness and respect is a big thing.
To improve somebody's life at work, to make them a much happier person, is a very good thing to do.
Involvement.
Involvement's important to us and our customers because we actually wouldn't be able to do an event or run anything without people coming.
They shape our service, so if we're not there involved in the community, then who are we running it for?
I am yet to see any local authority that's got the same kind of standard or engagement with especially between local authorities and police forces.
I'm so proud of what we've been able to achieve alongside them, and actually I'm really proud of Telford.
Me too.
I got specialist help from somebody that works with care leavers specifically, and they actually helped me find the job I've got now. Now I'm back in the gym and I'm working, so. The gym has technically saved my life, I would say that.
And I feel as though they're going that extra mile to help people of my age.
The Telford and Wrekin experience. Rated U. Suitable for all. Protect, care and invest to create a better borough. The Telford and Wrekin experience. Out now.
Thank you for sharing that. I hope that's given you a bit of an insight about our place, but as we all do every day, and why it's such a privilege for us to work in local government. Everybody in this webinar today, we deliver a range of services, don't we? We deliver well over 700 different things every day for our residents and for our businesses. And we must have, and we do have, clear plans to make sure we're moving in the right direction. Now, our council plan enables us to take a medium-term view of what we will deliver to protect, care and invest to create a better borough, and it sets out how we'll do this. As you can see on the infographic, we've got 5 priorities, which I won't run through in detail, but these state our ambition and our aspirations for the borough and the outcomes that we want to achieve for our residents. You can see the values around the outside of the circle. And these values are developed from our work as a cooperative council a number of years ago now. We live by those values and the behaviours associated with them. And as mentioned earlier, the how we do things is as important as to what we do. It's really important to us. It's always about the how for us and how we work with our communities and how we work with individuals. But in conjunction with the how, the culture within the organisation reflects our values, and all times we deliver services based upon what we term simplicity around the friends and the family test. Is this service that I'm associated with, supporting or leading the delivery of it, is it good enough for my friends and for my family, is something that we refer to all the time. The how can come in many different ways, but we're a firm advocate of co-production, and especially with lived experience. The outcomes and the outputs, as we all know, are much stronger if a service is designed in this way, and it will have sustainability at the core of the offer to last in the long term. Now, we've got much evidence of working in this way, and I guess the most recent high-profile work around responding to the independent inquiry to historical child sexual exploitation, CSE. Now, working directly with lived experience consultees, we co-designed and delivered on the response to the recommendations from the independent chair, Tom Crowther, KC. Finally, from me, we live by the quality of our service and having a direct correlation to how well we support our colleagues. It's very simple, really. If you look after your staff, your teams, they will look after the business. We're a firm believer in that. This doesn't happen overnight, though. This has been years in the making for us. But our recent staff survey reinforces the positivity that we enjoy within our organisation. The culture allows people just to get on with the job. After all, that's what they're being paid to do. Our role as managers and leaders is to facilitate, provide the environment to flourish, and for us fundamentally to get out of the way and allow things to happen. We promote an approach of kindness in leadership to reinforce the tone and the culture of the organisation we all want to see. We've got a really good staff benefit scheme covering a wide range of things such as salary sacrifice, money saving offers, and a flexible approach to work in terms of managing by outputs and much, much more. And finally, and probably the most celebrated announcement from the leader and I in living memory, or recent times I should say, is when we were awarded the LGC Council of the Year award. We gave all staff an additional day of annual leave as it's their award and they're being recognised for their great work, and it went down rather well. I'll hand over now to Joe Britton, the Executive Director of Children and Family Service, and I'll come back a bit later for any Q&A. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see you all. So as David said, I'll be sharing the brilliant basics that have been key to sustaining our improvement journey and supporting our achievements. What you can see on this slide, and I think it's a really nice slide to share to start off with, is a picture, if you like, that reflects our improvement journey and some of the elements of our back to basics. And it's been really useful in terms of sharing with our children and young people who are part of putting that together. So just a nice slide, I think, to start us off. Thank you. Okay, so Telford and Wrekin's transformation from requires improvement Ofsted rating in 2016 to outstanding in 2020 was the result of relentless ambition, innovation and a whole council commitment to children and their families. We are proud to have not only achieved this standard, but also maintained it, with our most recent ILAX inspection in 2024, once again grading our children's services as outstanding. As David's mentioned, we're particularly proud that alongside our ILAX judgment, the local area send inspection carried out by Ofsted and the CQC in 2023 concluded that the local area partnerships arrangements resulted in positive experiences and outcomes for children and young people with special educational needs and or disabilities. At the heart of our success is the right organisational context. Our One Children's Service model ensures alignment across all cross-directorates, breaking down silos and fostering seamless collaboration, which has been absolutely key in terms of moving us forward. We implemented a clear and ambitious vision for children and their families in Telford and Wrekin, focusing on building connection and relationships with children and their families, while supporting them to make changes. And ultimately, what all of this is about is relationships, in my opinion. We championed a whole council approach to corporate parenting, where the rights, needs and aspirations of children, young people and our care leavers are at the forefront of our agenda. The Council's programme to protect, care and invest to create a better borough encapsulates this approach. Our work to improve outcomes for care leavers through the adoption of a whole local authority approach ensures that responsibility for being a corporate parent is far-reaching and not solely the responsibility of those people in our organisation or those departments that have care leaver in their job description. This commitment really does drive positive results. For example, 75% of our care leavers are in education, employment or training, well above the national average. This commitment is one we apply to all children and young people with all areas of the council, reflecting on their own offers to improve outcomes. This places us in a position to move forward in adopting our child-friendly Telford, which I'll mention later. So our journey has been underpinned by support from senior leaders and elected members. The stability and commitment of our senior leadership team has been recognised as impressive by Ofsted. This leadership has provided the stability, ambition and advocacy needed to sustain high performance and drive continuous improvements. A clear illustration of our commitment can be seen in the ongoing development of our local offer for our care leavers. This work began really and was strengthened in 2019 when we had a visit from Mark Riddell, MBE, so our National Advisor for Care Leavers. The local offer has become a reflection really of our broader approach to corporate parenting, underpinned by strong collaboration with our lead member and cabinet members. It continues to be a priority for the council's senior management team, with strategic oversight from David, our chief exec, and contributions from all areas of the council. So we benefit from a long-lasting commitment to the service, demonstrated through ongoing financial investment and a willingness to support innovation. This has enabled us to develop and embed new models of practice, invest, for example, in digital transformation, and respond proactively to emerging needs. Our brilliant basics are about strong practice. An example of this is our adoption of the family safeguarding model, a model where adult practitioners who are able to support the adults in children's lives with substance misuse, mental health problems and domestic abuse sit within our children's services and support parents to address these challenging issues that impact upon their parenting. We've also introduced family hubs and a dedicated SEND hub within the borough. Prevention is a cornerstone of our service, and these hubs offer a community-led approach delivered by highly skilled practitioners who are committed from the onset to ensuring families receive the right help at the right time, fundamentally, most importantly, within their own communities. One of our most recent transformation developments is our practice has been the introduction of the Value in Care approach in early 2024. This strengths-based needs-led model has enabled us to better understand and respond to the individual needs, aspirations and outcomes of children in care, those on the edge of care and their carers. Through the use of visual radar profile across the 13 domains of need, we've been able to support a more informed decision-making around placement stability, reunification and targeted interventions. The impact has been significant. It's helped us step children down from external care, match them to the most appropriate settings and commission the right support packages. The approach has also strengthened multi-agency collaboration through the weekly Value in Care panel chaired by our Director of Children's Safeguarding and Family Support and embedded into practice evaluations, our quality assurance processes and strategic planning. Our organisational culture is inclusive, and that's been absolutely key in terms of ongoing delivery of outstanding. This is focused on belonging and driven by a passion for community. We celebrate diversity, we promote equity and foster a sense of belonging for children and families and staff alike. Our culture encourages creativity, reflection and mutual support, ensuring that everybody feels valued and empowered to make a difference. Staff describe Telford and Wrekin as inclusive and supportive. There is no hierarchy when it comes to attitude and respect towards others, and that came from our staff health check in 24. Our practice week, which we're embarking on next week, brings together practitioners across directorates to reflect, to learn and share best practice with a focus on stability, care and better outcomes for children. So the child's voice is at the heart of our work. A relentless focus on the voice of the child is at the core of everything we do. through direct engagement, co-production that David's mentioned already, and our feedback mechanisms. We ensure that children's voices are not only heard, but they drive our continuous improvement in innovation. The Voice and Influence team including 4 Voice of the Child apprentices, has led participation planning, launched newsletters and social media channels, and represented the borough at national forums, including Parliament. Their involvement in reverse mentoring has brought fresh perspectives to corporate parenting and helped shape services beyond children's care. So our workforce, I would expect that you would hear me say this, is always and always will be our most valuable asset. We're deeply proud of our dedicated and skilled and compassionate staff whose commitment underpins every success. Our annual staff health check shows 92% of staff feel supported by their managers, and our Grow Your Own approach has increased the numbers of apprentices and newly qualified social workers by 30% since 2021. New initiatives for staff wellbeing, including peer support, networks and access to mental health resources, have helped sustain morale and resilience. We've maintained a stable, highly skilled and committed workforce despite national challenges in social work recruitment. Our social work progression framework was implemented to further support our social workers' career progression, and combined with our workforce development plan, underpinned our recruitment and retention strategy. Our progression framework and leadership development programmes are reviewed regularly, and they really are enhanced to meet emerging needs. And we also celebrate our staff and ensure their voices are heard in shaping the future of our services. Our partnership with health, police and education and the voluntary sector is strong. We have co-produced new services and strategies for children, with children, young people and their families, ensuring that their lived experience shapes our priorities and practice. The Voice and Influence team continue to drive this work, and our Families First reforms are a model of collaborative innovation. The Dandelion Group, a collective of parents and carers, has co-led the development of our parent care participation strategy and contributed to regional co-production efforts with the Department for Education. This co-production has led to the introduction of new peer support groups and improved access to short breaks for families and their disabled children. If we're thinking about our performance, quality assurance and continuous improvement, we're committed to rigorous self-evaluation and external scrutiny. Recent audits, peer reviews and feedback from partners confirm that our high standards have been sustained and in many times further improved. We use data continually. We use quality assurance tools and case studies to evidence our impact, celebrate success and identify areas for further development. Getting the basics right enables innovation to happen. There is, though, a continued need to ensure brilliant basics are in place, and that's achieved through focus upon performance and quality assurance and strong governance that's in place to support this activity. We know ourselves well. In terms of communication, strong communication has continued to be a significant factor within our organisation. As part of our improvement journey, a range of communication methods were used and continue to be used, including fortnightly newsletters from myself, the director and staff-led groups, employee voice groups and think tanks and service brief. We share service developments and updates and learning. We provide opportunities for teams and services to showcase the work they're undertaking. Our staff survey shows 89% of our staff feel well informed about service developments and priorities and practice. We respond to new challenge. We recognise the ongoing pressure of increased demand, complexity of need and the cost of living crisis. Our response has been proactive, securing additional investment and strengthening our early help and implementing initiatives such as Value in Care, which has led to positive impact for children and positives in terms of our budget. So if we're thinking about new challenges, in terms of social care reform, transformation, child-friendly status, we're focusing on all of these things in terms of looking ahead. We remain focused, ambitious and forward-thinking. Our next phase then, in terms of focus, is very much on social care reform and transformation. We're actively engaged with national and social care reform. The Family First Partnership Programme represents an opportunity to progress this, utilising our core priorities. That's family help, multi-agency child protection and family group-based decision-making within a robust partnership governance framework. And we're moving towards the adoption of our child-friendly status, and we're proud to be working towards all that we do as a child-friendly borough. We'll measure progress against our 7 wishes identified by children and young people to be healthy, heard, safe, achieving, independent, happy, and surrounded by friends and people they trust. This commitment means embedding children's rights, participation and well-being into every aspect of local life. We have a continued focus on belonging and community. Our inclusive culture and passion for community remain central as we deepen our engagement with our children and families and partners to co-produce solutions and celebrate the strengths of our borough. Our family hubs, our youth offer, our 10 by 10 initiative, including children to try and 10 enriching activities before the age of 10, are just some examples of how we make Telford and Wrekin the best place for our children to be growing up. So we are proud of our achievements, but we're not complacent. Our agenda is one of continuous improvement, with an eye on ensuring the basics are in place all of the time. Our priorities for the next phase include further digital innovation, deepening co-production and sustaining our outstanding workforce. So thank you. I hope this has brought to life our focus and how we've maintained our brilliant basics while being able to innovate and move forward. I'm going to pass you over now to James Dunn, our Director for Prosperity and Investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Jo. So I'm going to talk through a range of initiatives that we as a council have implemented over a number of years in order to deliver the growth for our borough. Before I go through those, I just thought I would highlight the reasons, I suppose, all the barriers really, that we'd seen that we wanted to address in order to facilitate that growth. So firstly, we had silo working across a range of place services in regard to our approach to planning and growth, and I'll come on to that on this slide in a moment. We also had over 350 hectares of public sector government land that was in the borough, the majority of which was allocated for housing or employment uses, but was not being delivered. We also had a result of that, a real lack of new industrial floor space coming forward. And we also had a lack of good quality private rented residential properties coming to the market. And finally, like us, like most in local government, we also had that continual ask for or opportunity for grants from government, but effectively a requirement to react very quickly. And we didn't have those opportunities available on the shelf ready to go to react to those opportunities. So firstly, picking up on this slide around that business winning approach, in order to create that approach, we as an authority wanted to ensure that all our teams were on the same page in terms of our overarching ambition, which is to deliver growth, both from a residential point of view, but also from an employment point of view. So therefore, we did this by bringing those teams together under one directorate and one director, and being very clear on the outcome and ambitions that we had. I will see there is obviously a wide range of examples of really strong inward investment teams in local government, engaging with businesses, promoting their areas at UK Reef, business breakfast and other events. But to be frank, if that same narrative is not reflected in the actions of the planning team or the actions of the highways department, then it's pointless. Developers, agents, planning consultants, they know the reality. You need to be able to not only talk the talk, but also walk it as well, in terms of that support for inward investment across the council as a whole, in order to enable those opportunities for growth to come forward and become a reality. Next slide, please. So as part of that drive for growth, as I mentioned in earlier, going back to sort of 2012, 13, 14, we were in a position as a former new town where we had over 350 hectares of public sector land that was owned by Homes England as a government agency. A large proportion of those sites were allocated for employment and housing, but whilst officially available to buy with a for sale board on the site, they were not coming forward. And that's simply because there were a number of constraints that needed to be invested into those sites to make them immediately deliverable, and that had not been addressed. So for example, there was no live planning consents on the site, there was a lack of energy supply, access hadn't been dealt with, or issues like ecology were also major constraints. And so effectively, if someone turned up to Homes England and said, yes, I'd like to bring my business to Telford, I'd like to buy that site, please, the answer that would come back would be yes, that's great. But in reality, you're not going to put a spade in the ground for 2 years, because you're going to need to do an ecology survey, do a highways assessment, and all the other assessments you'll be well aware of. And then you need to put a planning application in. And therefore, in order for that business to react and be able to really look to invest, there just simply isn't the time when you're talking about 2 years before you can even put a spade in the ground. I think everyone always perhaps thinks of private sector as organisations that plan years and years in advance in terms of their future capital investments. I think we've seen the reality is that a lot of the inward investment is about reacting to contracts. You know, they've ultimately need to be on site and delivering the outputs off the back of contracts they have won. And therefore, we entered into what is known as the Telford land deal with Homes England. And effectively, that's meant that we took on the management of those assets within the borough. We invested up front in those assets. We obtained the planning consents. We dealt with the infrastructure. We put access points in. We put new energy supplies in order to make those sites available and deliverable from the very first moment that anyone made an inquiry. And I suppose to bring that to life in that top right-hand photo you can see there on the slide. So that is Magna Cosma. That's a manufacturing plant at T54, one of our industrial sites in Telford. Effectively, they won a contract with Jaguar Land Rover for the creation of aluminium smelted parts. When the first day we spoke to them, they needed to have that first part handed over to JLR as a sample 18 months after the day we were speaking to them. And effectively, that was made possible because we'd already obtained a planning consent on the site. We were in the process of bringing the new electricity supply to the wider estate, and therefore they had the knowledge and confidence in order to choose Telford as the site of choice. And ultimately, you know, it was a competition. You know, we were against a site in Worcestershire, sites in South Wales, and ultimately, the fact that site was ready to go meant that they chose Telford and brought the 450 jobs with them as well. So what also the land deal did was also give us an opportunity to retain an element of the land receipts within Telford, not all of it going back to central government, and it enabled us to recycle £20 million into Telford projects and deliver more housing and more employment for our own direct investment. Next slide, please. So effectively, alongside the land deal, we created the Growth Fund, which is effectively our direct investment into new investments to deliver a wide range of largely employment developments, but also others as well. So if you look at the example there on the left-hand side, that's Hortonwood 12. So we delivered a £9 million project of 24 units. So a real mix of smaller and medium-sized industrial units to give opportunities for businesses to start and to grow into. And effectively of that 9 million investment, we put £5.7 million of growth fund of the council's money into that, and we used 3.3 million of that recycled profit share from the land deal in order to cover the viability gap. And that's obviously then had, as a consequence, allowed businesses to grow and created new jobs. And the same at Nye Park at phase 1. Again, an investment that shared both the use of growth fund and also profit share in order to deliver that growth. Next slide, please. Again, there's a couple more examples there you can see of further industrial units that we've delivered, but also alongside that, we've also done a range of other non-industrial developments as well. So as you can see there, the Travel Lodge in Southwater, which sits very close to, adjacent to the International Centre within Telford, which is one of the largest convention centres in the UK. So delivering much needed new hotel spaces for visitors to the town. Next slide, please. I mentioned at the beginning, one of the other sort of barriers to growth and quality was also the lack of private rented accommodation within the borough. And so over 10 years ago now, we created the wholly owned housing company, New Place, which is owned outright by shares by the council, but effectively is a wholly owned company, and it focuses very much so on private rent. To date, we've invested over £95 million, and that is in a range of developments, predominantly new build, but also an element of conversions and upper floor redevelopments for apartments as well. The council benefits not only from the interest that the company pays on the borrowing that we receive from the council, we also receive an annual dividend, and the company also buys back services from the council, both in terms of our development management agreements and our housing management agreements. So the outcome of that, and what we've seen latterly, is that effectively we have become the largest private landlord in the borough. We have 800 dwellings, of which 650 are already completed, and we've got another 200 on site being delivered. It's allowed us to really establish a leading brand. So whilst it's New Place and it's branded as New Place, the council, tenants have that comfort to know that effectively it's the council sitting behind it. So it's not a council house, but it's a private rented home, but they've got the comfort, and effectively part of our strapline is that, you know, as long as you pay your rent and you behave yourself, you effectively can live there for as long as you want to. In terms of financial returns, it has generated a net income to the council of nearly £14 million. We have an annual turnover now of getting on for 5 million, and we've seen also capital growth in the value of our assets increase by 5.6 million. It's also enabled us to provide a wide range of programs around social value, and it's also enabled us to regenerate nearly 50 acres of brownfield land and bring back into use over 4,500 square meters of redundant floor space, which is a mixture of historic buildings that have sat idle and upper floors above retail as well. Next slide, please. And then finally, the last, I suppose, barrier to growth, as I mentioned earlier, like many others, in terms of that need to react to continue. It always seemed government grant opportunities that we needed to produce so much information so very quickly. The example here is Station Quarter. So effectively, we've used a patchwork of funding because we had the scheme ready to go. We'd purchased the 2 sites, which were redundant industrial site developments, and effectively we've invested in having a scheme ready to go. So we've utilised, therefore, we've had funding from the LEP, the West Midlands Combined Authority, Towns Fund, Levelling Up funding, to deliver a new transformational development right at the heart of the town centre. And that will not only deliver new town centre living for the first time within Telford, but also a new hotel, a new sixth form for Telford College, as well as really improving that public realm as well. That's everything from me. I'm now going to hand over to Fliss.
Thank you, James. So my slot's all about Team Telford and how we work with employees, residents and partners, because we can't do anything we've talked about today on our own. So I'm going to start off with employees. And I think the first thing to say is that I've worked at Telford and Wrekin for nearly 30 years now. And one of the reasons that I've stayed here so long is that I think it's a brilliant place to work, and it's got a really positive culture, as we've been hearing about. So I thought maybe I'm a little bit biased. So I've just done a quick straw poll of people that work here to see what they think, and I asked them to give me one word to describe what it's like to work at Telford and Wrekin Council. And some of the words that people said were purposeful, fulfilling, collaborative, but the most popular word was fun. Some of the examples of how we've built this culture is, I think one of the things we're really good at is celebrating success together. And one example of that is our annual Employee Awards, which is a full-on Oscar-style ceremony with many different categories, recognising how our teams make a difference in the community. This year, we had more than 300 employees and teams that were nominated for an award this year, and we're really excited to hear who this year's winners are in November. We've also become a much more inclusive organisation, and that's been supported by our 9 employee-led groups, from the race equality group to our menopause champions. Each one of these groups is supported by a senior management team champion. The group started off as safe spaces for employees to support each other, but they've just gone from strength to strength over the years. So they're now co-producing new HR policies, helping make council services more accessible, and they organise a whole wide range of events. The slide here shows a Bhangra dancing event that employees organised recently for South Asian Heritage Month. We also have a group of inclusive recruitment champions who are helping with everything from being on interview panels to making our job adverts appeal to a wider audience. Just getting my video on, thank you. We've got more work to do in this area, but it's really positive that in our recent employee survey, 89% of our employees agree that the council is committed to equality, diversity and inclusion. When people ask me what I mean by inclusion, I always say it's a place where everyone is welcome and where you can be yourself. And that is something that I've always felt working here at Telford and Wrekin. Finally, it's really important to us that every employee feels that they are playing their part in creating a better borough. And again, we're really proud that 92% of our employees said they understand how their work contributes to the council's priorities. We take lots of different approaches to this. So things like plans on a page so that everybody knows what our priorities are. And we also give our employees 2 days a year to volunteer in the community. So the picture shows the senior management team just 2 weeks ago doing their bit out to do a litter pick in one of our wards. And this is part of our senior management team on tour, where once a month we held our meeting at a different community venue. We also see our relationship with residents as a partnership. One example of this is our volunteering programme. We now have over 2,800 volunteers who support more than 20 different council services, from street champions to Get Connected volunteers who help older people to get online. In scale, this is like a whole second workforce for us and means that we can do a lot more in the community than we would be able to do on our own. The photo shows one of our health champion volunteers supporting our community blood pressure project. As well as individual volunteers, we've trained up now 15 different community groups, and together we have checked more than 4,600 residents' blood pressure, and nearly a quarter of those people were found to have high blood pressure and went on to get medical advice. We also aim to involve residents in designing and improving our services, and we've heard about some brilliant work going on in children's services involving young people and their families. In our recent Care Quality Commission assessment of our adult social care services, our approach to co-production was also described as innovative. One example shown on the slide is our Making It Real board, made up of experts with lived experience who are also represented on many of our other partnership boards. Over the last year, the Making It Real board have designed an easy-to-use guide to adult social care services, a carer's wellbeing guide, and tested, and I'm going to say to destruction, our self-service portal. So when that went live, it was as user-friendly as it possibly could be. We also have 235 residents who give their time to help us improve our services as mystery customers. Over the last year, the mystery customers have completed more than 150 assignments, and they give us really honest feedback, and I mean really honest feedback, on everything from our website to the experience of visiting our buildings. Last year, the average satisfaction rating from our mystery customer assignments was 88%. The mystery customers have been just one element of our drive towards customer service excellence. We know that our customers don't judge our service against other councils. Instead, their expectations are set by the best of the private sector. So we've worked with the Institute of Customer Services to benchmark ourselves against all sectors and to deliver an action plan which has led us to improving our customer satisfaction rating to 74%, which is well above the public sector average. And we also have a Net Promoter Score, which is a measure of customer loyalty above the average for all sectors. As a result, we were delighted that in April this year, we were the first council to ever be awarded the Institute's Service Mark accreditation in recognition of our high standards of customer services. The final part of Team Telford is our partners from across the public, voluntary and private sectors. Our overarching local strategic partnership brings together leaders from across all these sectors and focuses around the delivery of our 10-year vision. I think there are two things that make this partnership successful. The first is we don't try and do everything. Instead, we focus on inequalities and where we most need to close the gap. So what this means in practice is that we are concentrating as a partnership on just 3 wards in South Telford. And within these 3 wards, we are looking at just 3 priorities: health, safety and skills. The second thing that makes it work is that our aim is for the partnership to do less talking and more walking. The emphasis is always on delivery. So just a few examples of some of the things the partnership have delivered together. In terms of health, we have a thriving integrated place partnership that's making great progress on neighbourhood working. As you've heard, we're rolling out family and live well hubs where people can access a one-stop shop of services, and through funding delegated from our ICB, delivering a range of new preventative projects. One of these is the bus that you can see on the slide here is our new Healthy Hearts Outreach project. And that's a partnership between the South East Telford Primary Care Network, some of our council teams and Telford College. We are taking health checks to people rather than expecting people to come to us. And we've already delivered 12 sessions in just 1 month of operation. In terms of safety, there's been some brilliant use of shared data to identify crime and adult antisocial behaviour hotspots. And we've used that to plan a multi-agency response. So that's involved targeted policing and enforcement effort combined with measures like additional CCTV and lighting upgrades. At the same time, we're also focused on making communities stronger as well as safer through things like new youth clubs and our urban games, which are free school holiday activities where we get about 500 young people a week attending. To give you an idea of the impact, in just one of our wards, we've seen a 28% reduction in recorded crime compared to 3 years ago as a result of all this work. Finally, on skills, we've helped 800 new adult learners in South Telford last year. We started a new pop-up youth cafe to get young people into work, and Telford College have put on new bus routes to overcome the major barrier for young people to actually get to the college in the first place. And as James was talking about earlier, the new sixth form at Station Quarter will be an absolute game changer for young people in South Telford and make it even easier for them to progress into higher education. Has everything I've talked about fundamentally solved every challenge in South Telford? The honest answer is no, not yet and not completely. But the strength of the partnership is that we always keep checking back on outcomes and asking ourselves that really important "so what" question. This, along with the relationships we've built, I think give us a great foundation to keep redressing the balance in the future. Thank you for listening to our webinar, and I'm now going to hand you back to Sarah for questions.
Thank you, Fliss, and thank you to all of our presenters there. Yeah, as Alex said, just a relentless list of achievements and outcomes, and lots to ask questions about. There's a few in the chat, but I'm going to just take Chair's prerogative and ask one first. If the presenters, panelists could join me on the screen. David, I wanted to start with you and just to ask you a bit about the finances, because that was some really impressive stats you went through at the start. Underspent every year, lowest council tax. I just wondered, how have you done that, and how important has commercial income been to the council's financial position?
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. A really good question. I guess we started our commercial strategy back in 2013, just I guess a few years after the start of austerity. We took a view that if we continued to cut and slice, there was only ever going to be one outcome. So we took a very long-term view about our commercial strategy. We invested in areas of our business that we knew would, I guess, turn the dial in two significant areas that we all well, it depends on the authority, but in terms of council tax and business rates, so we focused our efforts and our investment to ensure that we could facilitate as much of an increase in terms of council tax and business rates as we possibly could, and a relentless drive to deliver efficiencies, do things differently, transform the way we do services and deliver services. We've made this, the same cuts that other councils have done as well, but it's been a huge effort from those early days to have a commercial strategy in tandem with efficiencies and driving transformation. That's made a big difference for us, and thank goodness we did adopt that strategy early on, because it's paying dividends now.
Brilliant. And just a bit of a follow-up to that, and maybe this is one to bring James in on as well, but the council's clearly invested a lot of money. Some councils have invested a lot of money and it's not worked out well for them. So I wonder how have you approached the risks involved with that in Telford to ensure that it has been a successful strategy?
I would say
kick off, James.
Yes, sorry. I think I would say we've sort of kept a focus on the areas that we know. We already had quite a large property investment portfolio anyway, and then when we looked to expand that, we really worked on the markets that we knew, particularly the industrial sectors. And as I showed in my slides, we've also utilised grant funding, particularly from the land deal, but other grant funding as well, to mitigate that risk. So we're not very our yields are higher therefore than otherwise you see potentially in the market, and therefore we have that sort of a little bit more of a buffer, I suppose, in terms of that investment and to offset that risk.
And I think, if I may, Sarah, thank you, James. In terms of borrowing, the three elements to borrowing that councils get involved in: there's good borrowing, essential borrowing, and bad borrowing. And I think borrowing as a challenge comes in covering all forms. So good borrowing is a return on investment, some of the elements that James just referred to. Essential might be roads maintenance and investment in that space. And then you have the pet projects in terms of the bad borrowing. I think there's a distinction needed, and I guess local government presenting in such a way that sort of depicts what I've just described there. But fundamentally, in response to your question, knowing your market, playing a market you understand, playing a market you can influence. So we have seen some difficult challenges that councils have got themselves involved in. We could have bought a couple of huge retail offers in and around our borough, but we don't know the market, and the external influences on retail, as in the web and the different ways of people purchasing products, that influence was far too much of a risk for us, so we didn't go near it. We went in net markets we understand, which is around housing, commercial, and employment.
Thank you. Really interesting. And a few questions coming in on children's services. So I know we're running out of time, although if everyone's all right, we'll go over by a few minutes. But so I'll group them together. So somebody's asking, is Brilliant Basics council wide, or is it just children's services? And can you tell us a bit more about some of the stuff you did that was innovative, and particularly something I'd be really interested to hear a bit more about was your work with people with lived experience of child sexual exploitation. So a few bits there for you to pick up on, Joe.
Oh, sorry, I was having problems. Sorry, thank you. Thanks for the question. I think we've touched on some innovative practice already within the presentation, certainly in terms of Station Quarter. I think it's an innovative endeavour. We've focused on our SEND family hubs, where we've got dedicated provision within our family hubs. We've worked hard in terms of introducing a new speech and language programme that really has reduced the need for children to use speech therapy and has provided them with the best start in life. Key, obviously, is speech and language and communication, and we've seen the outcomes in terms of that. In terms of our fostering services, we've got a really strong recruitment, but where housing is not a barrier. So we've had carers who are happy to look after a number of children in sibling groups, and we work across the council to support carers in terms of achieving new housing, and we've had some success in that regard. In terms of our lived experience consultees, they played a major part in terms of Tom Crowther's inquiry, as we've touched on already, and co-produced the outcomes from that inquiry in terms of recommendations that were made. And that each of the recommendations was not agreed until the lived experience consultees felt that it delivered and that it improved practice and outcomes for children, young people, and then going on in terms of adults. So that was a really interesting experience, I think, for all of us, but absolutely saw the value of their input and have maintained engagement throughout and continue to do so. We've got the Dandelion group, which is a group of adults who've got service experience that have really helped us develop our response to service provision. So I can think of examples in terms of how we manage child protection case conferences, how parents advocate for one another within that space. And that's not an easy thing to be doing, where we're very used to certain ways of practice. So that's been hugely beneficial as well. Obviously, we've introduced the family safeguarding model in terms of children's services, where our parents benefit from adult practitioners that sit alongside our children's workers and really advocate for them and improve outcomes essentially for parents, which then improve outcomes for our children. So they're just some of the things that we're thinking about. In terms of our case recording, and we can see this through our focus on quality assurance and performance, our case recording is always written to the child, with the child in mind. And so when children look at their case records, it absolutely makes sense to them. It's written to them in their language. And certainly in terms of feedback from that, our children and young people really pleased in terms of what they're seeing, as were our inspectors. So they're just a few things I think that we're trying to do across the whole of the service and the system. In terms of Brilliant Basics, that's across all of the council. And what we do and attend to as a senior leadership team really is focus upon quality assurance, but also our performance and our performance indicators. We look regularly at our performance across the council, and we do a deep dive into particular areas. And I think there we see whether we have evidence that we are still delivering our Brilliant Basics. And that's very much around people's lived experience within Telford and Wrekin. And as David was talking about earlier on, the friends and family test, is this good enough for all of our residents? Would this be good enough for our family? So that's touching on some of those things you've asked. Thank you, Sarah.
Really powerful tool, and yes, so many things there again. I guess we're probably running out of time, but one more question for you, Felicity, that's come in is somebody wanted to hear more about the Live Well hubs and what's involved in them and what impact are they having?
Yeah, I think the question related to the relationship between the Live Well hubs and the Healthy Hearts bus. So yeah, the Live Well hubs have been established for longer and aren't just in one location, and they bring together a range of different health and care related services at a sort of physical location. So they're typically in like a community centre location, and they're on a regular day of the week so that people get to know that they're there and they can go in and actually get that advice from different services, and the services collaborate because they're co-located at that Live Well hub. And then we have guest sessions where it's not necessary for that partner to be there every single week, but we advertise that ahead of time. So once a month we might have someone coming and giving debt advice or something like that, so people know that they can come and get that. So they're kind of around the borough. The Healthy Hearts bus is very much focused in South Telford, which is the area that I talked about as having real health inequalities, and it's got a real focus on trying to improve people's heart health in particular, but there's a wider health check that goes on there, and we're working very much with the GPs to target people going down for that health check that perhaps wouldn't go to the GP. And there's a certain amount of sort of passing trade as well in terms of people who wouldn't even respond to that, actually just taking that to where people are. So they're complementary, so people can go to the Live Well hub in South Telford as well, but the Healthy Heart bus is a very targeted, focused intervention.
And is that working with the NHS, or is that something that the council is?
Yeah, so it's working with the primary care network, with the GPs and various other health partners as well.
Yeah, well, thank you. I think we're probably out of time. A couple of quick ones. Somebody wants to know, is the video available on your website? It was a great video. Is it something that...
I don't think it is on the website, but I guess it's part of this recording, isn't it? So
it
perhaps
is,
that's another way to access, if that's okay.
Yes, in response to another question, this webinar will be made available to watch for free soon. So yeah, you can see it there. So thank you very much to all my presenters. That was really fascinating. Fascinating insights into Telford's story, and I know we could probably carry on all afternoon talking about it, but unfortunately that is all we have time for. Thank you everyone for watching. Apologies for the slight technical hitches, but hopefully it didn't spoil the experience too much. And also thank you to Zurich Municipal for their support with this. If you would like to find out more about other LGC award winners, past and present, you can visit the Idea Exchange section on lgcplus.com, where of course you can also find all the latest local government news and analysis. And finally, and most importantly, make sure you get your entries in for LGC Awards 2026 Closing date is 12th of December, so you've got some time to think about it. And yes, I'm excited to see who will be our 30th Councillor of the Year next year. Thank you again to Telford, and congratulations again on a really worthy win. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Thank you all.